because it is a grind, right? And you are hustling. We all are. Like I understand that, but I do think that the way that gets talked about can be like very not can be like it is very toxic because not everybody is going to wake up at 4 a.m. like Jocko. Not everybody is going to run 100 miles a day like Goggins, right? You have to live a fully integrated life, right? You're a human being who you have a fiance. I have a wife and a child. Like, we have a life to live. If we're not enjoying the entire life, then that's not successful in my view. Work
Yeah.
does take up the vast majority of our lives, and that just makes sense, right? That's just the way that human culture has evolved. But how do you stay away from that like toxic grind mentality and look at more of like the kind of like, this is my word, not yours, but it seems like more of a joyful grind?
Yeah, you have to. I just learned this also at this PenFed Veteran Entrepreneur Program. They're awesome. We talked about time blocking and making sure your calendar specifically reflects your value. You do kind of have to become the CEO of your own life, and you do have to put it into your calendar. Like you said, life and work. It is something you need to learn how to integrate. I definitely think that I believe in working very hard. I've always worked very hard in my entire life. My mom, my parents always instilled like, we're going to stay up late, we're going to knock stuff out. And so I think a lot of that does come from, it comes naturally to me just because of how I was raised. But, now the older I get, I really am shifting into this new stage in my life where I'm like, okay, just being more intentional with my time, but also really working hard and being present when I need to be present with my work.
Is that much of it? That's not much of a change for you, right?
My name is Kerry Kite. I used to load bombs in the Air Force, and now I'm a writer, a filmmaker, and an entrepreneur. Through using the post 9/11 GI Bill to go to college, working hourly jobs to pay the bills, and freelancing my way into a career, I've studied what it takes to successfully transition from service to civilian, and that study has become a conversation. On this podcast, I speak to other veterans, successful artists, and entrepreneurs about their transition, what they did well, where they failed, what they learned, and most importantly, how they applied their skills. Episode 114 features Haley Marie McClain Hill, the founder and CEO of Torch Warrior Wear and the author of Light the Torch, an origin story by the creator of Warrior Wear. Haley was on Shark Tank earlier this year, where she secured investment from Lori Grenier. Welcome. This is Veteran Made. This episode is brought to you by Go Pills, a nootropic that gives your brain neurotransmitter support both acutely and over time. Those of us that served in the military, regardless of where we served and in what capacity we served, all came into contact with different chemicals, different percussions, and various elements of our environments that have affected our brain's ability to function. Think about your brain's performance and your mental health right now, yes, but think about your future too. We have so much more control over our long-term health than we realize. Visit gopills.com and use code VM15 at checkout for 15% off. That's VM15 for 15% off. Give your brain the neurotransmitter support it needs to perform well right now and over time.
All right. Good morning from the great state of Ohio and the great state of California. Haley, welcome back to Veteran Made.
What's up, Carrie? So happy to be back. Good to chat with you. We always have a good time. So
Yeah, no, I'm stoked. It's been fun. It's like you're a repeat guest, which I'm starting to have more of, and I enjoy that. And then we've become friends and text quite a bit kind of throughout the year and been looking for a good opportunity to have you back on, and appreciate your flexibility coming on for a quick turn episode this week. I mean, I wanted to kind of catch up on a couple of things. I mean, I knew you were going into Shark Tank last time that we recorded, but we didn't talk about it because it hadn't happened yet, but it has happened. And then you also wrote a book. So I want to talk about both of those things, but let's start with Shark Tank. Can you kind of update us on where Torch kind of was going into Shark Tank and what that experience was like?
Definitely. So Shark Tank, when we talked, we were waiting for our air date, and that's like the big thing when it comes to that show, right? Like you want to get that publicity, you want to get the marketing, you want to be able to, hey, go watch my episode, or just say, yeah, we're the new Shark Tank company. So when we got our air date, I literally was so excited. It was like, this is finally coming, because it took me about a year to get it. And so when we got it, we decided to plan this big party. We had friends, family come in, and we got like this little private room in like a sushi restaurant, and we had balloons, and that was the first time I actually watched the show as well. So once we actually watched it and I saw the edits and the cuts and everything, that's the second part where you're like, I really hope that they framed me in the right way, because you never know how the producers are going to kind of paint your picture. And so once they showed the episode, everyone was crying. Everyone was like, that was so amazing. It just really, again, shout out to the producers of Shark Tank. Like, they really did an incredible job telling our story. And so once that kind of popped off, we saw like a 3x in sales, just overall awareness of our brand now, and just that like ability to walk into any room, any conference, and people would be like, oh my gosh, you're like the Shark Tank company, which is half the battle when it comes to building a business. So since then, it's been awesome to have that mentorship from Lori. She was our investor, and she kind of was the one who saw something in me and saw something in Torch. And I think the other sharks, wanted me to be a little bit bigger, get to have some government contracts, develop some new products. And I think, Lori saw the vision. And if you guys watch the episode, you can see that I thought we were going to walk away with no deal. And we ended up walking away with the dream deal. So I'm really, really thrilled with where we're at right now. And it's just riding that wave for the rest of this year and for years to come.
Yeah, love it. So, I mean, I'd like to go back a little bit just to kind of nerd out on the production process and the entrepreneurial process, because that's the marriage of my worlds. Did you what was the application process like for you? What were you thinking about as an entrepreneur? Okay, I want to get on Shark Tank. And here are my goals kind of going into this process. And I do want to talk about if those goals were met or exceeded or how they adjusted coming out. But first, what was your goal going in? What were your goals going in? How did you approach it as both an entrepreneur and, essentially as talent going on to a show that is also primarily for entertainment?
Yeah. Well, I was a cheerleader. So my whole thing is if I can use my experience being in front of thousands of people, then I can definitely go in front of these 5 people and, be entertaining, be myself, be fun, interactive. And that was just my entire goal, just going in there and saying this is Haley, this is, the authentic me, but also this is the community that I'm bringing to America's attention, and the community that's been so underserved in this fashion sense, and kind of how we're doing something different. My goal also was to go on there and know, not be tripped up at all by the questions, by the personalities, anything. So I did hire a Shark Tank coach, somebody to walk me through an experience. And so I actually found somebody who's helped another company get a deal. And so I was like, can you guys just practice? And, just like an athlete, right? It's just practice, repetition over and over again. I was like, I want to go on there. My goal is just to absolutely knock it out of the park and not make my community look bad. Make me look like I know what the heck I'm doing as a business owner. And as a presenter as well, because that's huge when you're pitching. It's half the battle emotion, half the battle numbers. It's that balance with right side, left side of brain. And so that was the best decision of my life, to be able to practice with somebody for months before we actually filmed. And so when I went in there, I just kind of word vomited and did what I needed to do.
Did you when you applied for Shark Tank the first time, a couple of years ago, whenever it was, what was how confident were you that you were going to get chosen?
I was pretty confident that what we were doing had such a strong story that someone was going to want to at least put this on their portfolio to say, this is me trying to make a difference in this space. So being a part of the military, and, for veterans listening to this too, you have, and I was just at this business cohort called the PenFed PenFed Veteran Entrepreneur Program in Arkansas. And they're just talking about how veterans, not that they're the last upstanding people in the world, but we have this innate ability to have people trust us, and because of our core values and what we stand for, I figured just me walking in there in my uniform already increased my chances by 50%, I would say. So I was pretty confident, and then I knew if I walked in there, had my hair done right, my makeup, and I just put on the show too, I was like, oh, it's gonna be over for them. They're gonna love it. The whole time. No,
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you're right. We're one of the last communities where, we're very nonpartisan, right? Very cross-partisan, right? It's not political. So, everyday Americans and entrepreneurs and, corporate folks want to support and know that it's something that they can do that's going to give back, that isn't going to necessarily have that political backlash that it might have, with some of the other ways that certain communities and be can be and are helped and represented, which sounds a little bit pessimistic, but on the one hand, much like we are the kind of first line of defense and tip of the spear as an organization to protect the country and go defend the country, we can also be that for some of these other uh, affinity groups, right? Like if the business community and the civilian community can get opportunities to work with us as a way to help an affinity group, well, then maybe we can help make it easier for some of the others, or at least get a better understanding of how to do that, right?
Yes. And Carrie, it's like we it's almost like there's this stigma in entrepreneurship too. It's like kind of fake it till you make it. It's like, fluffing things and trying to create something out of nothing. I just feel like with veterans as well, it's like I don't come with that mentality. It's like I have the integrity to say this is what I'm doing. I'm you're not going to lie about your numbers. You're not going to do these. It's just a different type of person you're doing business with. Just is.
Yeah, it is. And I think for our community, right, like you bring up a really good point, which is having that confidence and having that knowledge that people want to help us
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you don't then need to deliver on your product and your presentation, right? Like you spoke about it in a really, I think, helpful, practical way, which is, hey, I'm confident because I know that people want to help my community. That means that I'm already at an advantage, which means whatever extra I bring is going to be that much better. It's not an opportunity to settle. It's an
Mhm.
opportunity to kind of keep moving forward and use it. I could use the example of like Mario Kart for those of us that played that back in the day, right? Like you're driving
Yeah.
along and you hit that rainbow arrow,
Rainbow food. Or
but you have to be going already, right? It's not just that's
yeah.
not just going to win the race for you. So I think it's a really important piece for people to remember. If you're going to pitch something from our community, you're going to maybe get an opportunity that others won't, but that's then another opportunity to keep doing the work and doing it well.
Exactly. Yeah, it's with anything. And I would love to share too, like this new kind of script that I've kind of come up with since I have been working like after Shark Tank and then after kind of the other pitch competitions and working with veteran entrepreneurs. Like um I use something called the Sunlight script, and like this is kind of that new thing that I think that even Shark Tank is using to kind of draw in their entrepreneurs. Like I said, it's like you have to have your good product, you have to present, but you also have to hit these things. And so it's like first is your story, then you're talking about the unresolved problem, that's the you, and then you have the like no more statement, the like this is the problem but it doesn't need to happen anymore. And then that's when you set yourself up as like we are the light, the solution, L. So it's like that's when you set your company up for the solution of the problem. And then I would be like the integration of like the ideas. How are you going to do this? How are you going to actually bring this to life? Then you have G, which is going to be getting to the numbers. So you want to put all the numbers in there. You want to either put like statistics or you want to put anything when it comes to like your goals side of things. Like, how are you going to take all this information that you just shared with them and actually project like what you're going to present in the future and how you're going to make it happen. And then H is going to be like how you're specifically unique to actually making this happen. So your specific, your accolades, the credibility, and then T is like the like ta-da finish. So you have to have like something fun at the end. So write that down, guys. Sunlight script. I can share it with Carrie, but that's kind of the script and the arc that kind of goes along with presenting yourself as a veteran entrepreneur, but also like the script behind actually pitching. So I hope that
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah, that's great. Share that with me.
Yeah.
I'll pop on Canva and make a like a little static post for this week for the episode, and we'll collaborate on that so people can see it, and we'll share it. Why? Because I think that's really great. I also think what's
I'll
that?
create it on Canva for you. Make sure it's nice and pretty.
Okay, all right, sounds good. We'll co-brand it. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's such an important piece that you bring, and we talked a little bit about your experience as a cheerleader last time when we were talking about NFL stuff as we were hopping on, before we started recording.
Yeah.
And it's obviously a very specific piece of experience that you have, or set of experiences that you have that kind of help drive some of this performance. And I think it's something that would really help others in our community understand a little bit better if you can dig in a little bit, because we all have this sense of humility and all this sense of loyalty and this sense of hierarchy. We want to make sure that we do things and we do them well. We want to make sure that we're respectful, and we want to make sure that we, lead up and down the chain of command correctly. All those things do need to be done when you transition out. But one thing we're not very good at, I mean, some people are, but kind of small minority of the community who are out there putting their own experiences forward. For the rest of us, though, like, it's really hard for us to say, hey, look at me, look what I can do, and here's how I can show you enthusiastically that I do these things really well. But because you have this blended experience of cheerleading and serving in the military, how have you used your cheerleading experience in that presentation as an entrepreneur, and how has it pushed you in ways that you weren't expecting?
Well, I think people just assume when you see a cheerleader, it's like you just stand there and look pretty and jump around. And I mean, we do that. But we also do a lot of interacting with fans and getting to know people and putting ourselves out there in very unique situations. I mean, I have traveled to Hong Kong and been in like the Chinese New Year parade. I've been at the Super Bowl and, in Atlanta when it was just like absolutely insane and crazy. And you're just meeting CEOs and business owners and suite holders and all these different types of people who are come from all different types of life. And then you're talking to the fans, the kids, and everything. And so I think the biggest thing I took away from cheerleading is just the ability to walk up to somebody and smile and just say, "Hi, how are you? Cool." For me in the cheer world, it'd be like, "What are you excited about for the game?" Or "Who's your favorite player?" Or something like that. Asking questions and engaging with people. And I think I take that whenever I go to a pop-up shop or a conference or anything like that. When I'm interacting with my customers, it's very much a building a genuine relationship, asking them questions, smiling, acting like I'm having a good time. And I am having a good time. I am enjoying what I'm doing, but it's just those little things where if you don't, if you don't, if you're not used to talking with people and building relationships, whether that's a CEO, an investor, or somebody who is just like your new incoming customer, and knowing how to kind of balance both of those relationships, businesses building genuine relationships and caring about the people that you're working with every single day. So that's probably the biggest thing that cheerleading has taught me, and just to like be positive, be super positive with them, even though you can ask them like kind of what can I do to help, how can I make your experience better, how is my brand or my product helping better your life. We can talk about your problems, but it's always going to veer back into, well, you're still incredible, and I'm just like really amazed at your accomplishments and never forget that. Just always spinning things to a positive thing and being a positive person that people like remember at the end of the day. So
Yeah, being fully engaged, right? Not just like you said, not just standing there smiling and looking pretty, but standing there smiling, being pretty, and being engaged and having that conversation and making people feel like you are bringing the brand to them rather than just them standing back and experiencing the brand from a distance.
exactly. And to any entrepreneurs out there, if you are at a pop-up shop or a conference, make sure you have some type of music at your booth. Okay, that's always going to draw people in and make people want to dance and have fun. I learned that from
Yeah,
the game world too, entertainment world.
I love it. Yeah, one of my
Yeah.
favorite things, I want to talk about the coaching experience that you went through before Shark Tank, because one of my favorite things about your content and you as a person and following your journey is that you're always doing something to level up, and not in the like grind hustle grind way, but in the like, hey, I've experienced this new thing, or I've been exposed to this new thing, and I think it can help me get better in this on this part of the journey that I'm on. So being somebody who has a lot of confidence in their ability to present themselves, to present their idea, to understand their product, what made you seek a coach, and what was that process like as you went through it?
Yes. I'm very realistic with the things that I don't know and the things that I do know. I think every entrepreneur has probably said that, just really leaning into your strengths. And so when this Shark Tank came about, and again, with my background being an athlete, like I was like, I just need a mentor, somebody to kind of walk me through this. But I even hired my first business coach when I was still active duty, and I was just starting my business. So I've had the same business coach for the last 4 years. She's incredible. I can share her information with anybody, but like that was kind of that set the tone for me, where she was like, okay, when I, had a question for her about something that she didn't necessarily know either, she connected me with somebody, a mentor, somebody who was a professional in the space. And so we collaboratively we're just like, all right, I'm about to do this huge thing. You need to go find a mentor and you need to go find somebody. So I went on YouTube, I went on Google, I followed the other entrepreneurs who were on Shark Tank. Just a lot of, like, again, meeting people and just asking questions. Hey, how did you do this? And hey, what would you recommend? And then I finally kind of found somebody that kind of clicked with me, had a call, and then just went full force with them. So yeah, I mean, I think coaching mentorship is everything. There's an app called Intro app, and it will introduce you to people who are CMOs or former, investors, VCs, or anything like that. So many different career fields. Highly recommend people going onto there, and you can schedule a 15-minute call with somebody. It's going to be probably around $200, a little expensive, but I've done like 4 or 5 of those, and they have connected me with so many different people. And so I just highly recommend just really investing in mentorship, or just like, meeting people. That's just big.
Yeah. I mean, you can't do it alone, right? And it's something that comes up on the show quite a bit, which is this idea of, like, while we were off serving, fighting the GWAT, doing whatever it was that we were doing, getting our skills and experiences that I want to help empower the community to communicate better about themselves. The other piece that's important to remember is that while we were doing that, the people that we're now working with, the people that we're now working for, the vendors that we want to use, the people that are in this new industry that we want to get into, well, they were doing that, which means they have something to offer us. So while we have something to offer them, we need to humble ourselves and say, all right, I want to be in this industry. I want to be in this arena, but I don't exactly know how to get there. Well, go find somebody who's been doing that while you were doing something else.
Yep.
Stay connected to your veteran family, obviously, but it can't just be all veterans, right? We have to be working and learning from other people that have been doing this thing that we want to be doing.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And living in the Bay Area, like close to Silicon Valley, my fiance works for Google and kind of friends with a lot of different startups and stuff. Like, these people are amazing. I mean, we are amazing, but yes, I mean, their skill set, their level of all of that is just, I'm just like, wow. Definitely need them on my dream team to make all this come to life. So
Yeah,
for sure.
no doubt. And then on the other side of it, so Lori is your shark and she invested and she's working with you, like, behind the curtain, peek behind the curtain. Like, how often do you talk to her? What does that process actually look like on the back end?
Yeah, so we're still in this, like, I haven't even, the show just aired in February. So what people don't know is that the Sharks they're actually going to be like filming the next season, like right soon after. So Lori has been filming the last season, and she's been super busy, but towards the end of the year we're trying to get together for dinner. But she
Cool.
taps in with me, she asks me for updates, she says, how can I help? And so she's very engaged. I've talked with her multiple times. It's just, yeah, I mean, it's not like she's holding my hand through this experience,
Sure.
which I wouldn't expect. And honestly, it's grateful just to have that little, like, Easter egg in my back pocket, and if something comes up, I know that she'll be very helpful. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so the episode aired. You got a shark. You got some investment. What have you been doing since February? And during the cadences of those conversations, what's growth looking like? Are you targeting anything different than you were before, or are you just working towards the same goals that you had for 2024 and just staying on track?
Yep. So we're buckling down. We're not going to kind of expand to any different markets or anything like that. We want to really go above and beyond for our current customer base. So we are growing, like, our community. So we have over 2,000 brand ambassadors around the world, and we're trying to figure out how to really cultivate those relationships before we're trying to, expand into men or other career fields, law enforcement, all that stuff. So we want to develop some new products. I've been traveling conferences, meeting people. I have been trying to build more of an understanding around government contracts, and trying to just meet people who can really make purchase decisions within each unit. We're looking at, special operations units who want us to develop, like, dry fit material, bodysuits, or, just more female friendly special operations products and stuff like that. So that's cool. And I'm building my team. I just brought on a CFO, a COO, a CMO. And so we're just, like, developing this new dynamic of more people in the pot. And they're all amazing. I will say 80% of my C-suite team, no, yeah, 75%, I guess, because it's 4 of us. 75% of us are veterans, and so my CFO is not. He's worked with a lot of veteran-owned businesses, though, which is really cool. Adore them. They're incredible. So now I actually just met a couple of them in person for that business cohort that we did. And it's just amazing to kind of see their love for the brand too, and as it grows. And so as I develop, and try to step away and try to do more founder CEO based things, I know that the brand is really in great hands because people, they know they are us. That's the biggest thing we're trying to develop, like our vision statement. It's like, in our mission statement, it's like, we are you. Like, we know what you want because we are you. And so that's the biggest thing that I want to relay to the women. And my team is, very, very, very capable of doing that.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, I want to take the conversation in two different directions, but that are also, I think, on parallel paths. So I'll ask both questions. We can start with one and then we'll come back.
Okay.
For those of you listening, you laugh because I always do this. I always ask like one question in 3 parts, and then we never get to what the meat of it is that I want to get, and I got to work on that. So some real time adjustment. So I want to talk. Thanks. I want to talk about you building, like you said, your personal brand, your CEO brand. You essentially as an ambassador, which is both for Torch, where you wear, but is also for Haley, who speaks and wants to be engaged and wants to have, like you said, multiple hands and multiple pots, right? But on the other hand, you're also then leading your organization instead of just running your organization, right? So now you have team members that are in the C-suite with you, and then you're looking at forecasting, developing new product, understanding there's some quite far on the horizon, but that you need to close a gap between now and then, right? And to do it smartly. So how are you parallel pathing on those two things, building your own brand, writing your book, speaking, traveling, while also leading the organization and then delegating work to people within their certain pillar within the organization?
Yes, love this question. So it's always a 24-hour grind. I think we talked about this before. It's always a 24-hour grind. It's like if I am, and it's always just associating me with my company. So building my personal brand looks like, I realized that if I can get in front of audiences and speak to people about what I'm doing, what I'm building, it naturally will start building kind of an audience, and I will kind of become like a thought leader in this space for veteran entrepreneurship. And that's kind of a big goal for me. And I think that I've definitely kind of built a name for myself, which is awesome. So now it's just continuing to build that reputation and becoming more and more credible. So how to do that? You write a book. I read this book called Oversubscribed by Daniel Priestley. Highly recommend to anybody listening. And he talks about being the face, like how to be the face and how to be that thought leader in the space and how to develop your personal brand, and talks a lot about getting press and writing books and getting education or universities to kind of there's all these different things you can be accredited or what all these things. So I started kind of going down the list of the things that he told me to start doing, that he shares. And so I decided to, take on the position with Penn State as an entrepreneur in residence, to kind of, my thought process is just like, if people see me as somebody who has built this brand, got a deal on Shark Tank or whatever, I can give back, but then ultimately I can maybe it's a win-win for me. I can get interns. I can also get people who are going to maybe hire me to consult for them in the future. And so it's just like building out this like tree of Haley and this ecosystem of Haley. Like I think entrepreneurs, especially founders, have to look at themselves as an ecosystem. It's like, what can I offer? And how can I share that? And so I even still do, pop-up NFL cheerleading prep classes for people because I'm like, that is part of my history. And so I'm just always looking for ways where I can add value. And so I think that's a personal brand. What in your background can you add value to different organizations? So I'm speaking, I'm trying to post on social media, tips, looking at other influencers who are kind of in this space. I know Ben Francis, who's the CEO of Gymshark, does this really well, kind of seeing other influencers who are building their personal brand at the same time. And I'm like, okay, like I just need to kind of twist it into what my story is and just continue communicating that alongside with building the brand. So that's kind of long-winded, but that's kind of the first part. Second part is you delegate what...
Oh, hold on. Sorry.
Oh,
Can I just
okay.
pause and second part in a second because I just thought of something. Sorry to interrupt you, but so
Yeah.
your ecosystem in the tree, I love it as an analogy. I think one thing that's really important that you do really well already, and I want to hear how intentional it is for you, is like everything in that tree, everything in that ecosystem is geared towards the goal of growing yourself and growing your business. I think where a lot of entrepreneurs want to get into, I've been tempted with this, when you have the opportunity to get into the thought leader space, when you're offering thought leadership on certain things, it's easy to drift off of the entire goal and not keep all of the goals like under that tree, right? To keep going with your analogy. So how do you think about that?
Well, everything needs to feel extremely aligned. Everything, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it's just, mm,
Because like I got tempted like a couple of years ago when I was running production at this advertising agency, right? Like people are like, oh cool, you're a veteran, you're bringing these military frameworks and mindsets to the processes that advertising agencies, marketing departments, and production companies engage in, but you're not being militaristic about it. We really like that. So the trades were Ad Week and Ad Age and all these different things, like, hey, write some op-eds and things like that, which was really cool. But the temptation immediately was like, ooh, they want me to write an op-ed. Then when I realized like, oh no, they're actually not that interested in me. They're interested in these frameworks and this mindset and this integrated approach that I'm bringing to the agency. So while I am the one kind of bringing that, really everything needs to stay geared towards, well, what are we doing here? What is the practical effect of what it is that we're doing, instead of just like making it about yourself, which you don't. I'm not saying you don't do that. Like it's very clear that you're authentic, as you do this. So I'm just curious how intentional you are about that, or is that just something that comes naturally?
oh man, it's very intentional. Everything is planned and intentional. Again, I walk through, and that's such a great example. Thank you for, I was like trying to follow you for that. Yeah, no, I mean, me and my business coach, we work out specific workshops and products and things that are going to help amplify my brand and that ultimately package my knowledge up into little packages that make it digestible for people. And so, yeah, it's not necessarily about me. It's more about my pitch scripts. It's more about, okay, I'm going to go speak to this military conference on um I don't even, leadership, or being a female veteran entrepreneur, like sticking into those spaces, finding your niche where you can just really add value. So yeah, I mean, it's everything is very, very intentional. I just really talk through a lot of it with my business coach to say, hey, what's going to be the biggest ROI, and how is this going to be super, like, because now my time is very valuable too, like where am I putting my time and energy into things that are really going to give me the biggest return. So I think that's helpful. Did that
Yeah.
help? Did I answer? Oh
Oh,
my.
that's super helpful, because I don't think
Okay.
like when people, and we'll stick with veterans here, when veterans want to get into the space and be an entrepreneur, you really do need to understand what your hourly rate is and like how valuable your time is, because a lot of the work that we're putting in now in these early stages, we're not getting compensated for, but what we're doing is we're building that foundation. I mean, I think having that targeted approach, right? And it's like what we're talking about is understanding your personal, like, and even if you like, I think about it in terms of like hourly rate and day rate, because very specifically in my industry, like we are selling services where we bill our time, right? So even
Mhm.
now, as I'm working on selling through different projects, whether they be like long form or mid form, or selling through a commercial campaign or an online video campaign or something like that, as we scope for that work, I account for the time that myself and my wife, my business partner, like we account for our time, and then we add that to that scope, right? So
Yeah,
we're not getting paid in the immediate as we're building the business, but we are building those reps and that foundation. And then we need to understand how much time we're spending and what the value, monetary value of that time is as an entrepreneur, because we're not salaried, right? We're not just getting paid on payroll every 2 weeks to be doing the work that we're doing. We have to think about that and forecast it a little bit.
exactly. It's all about that long-term vision and goal. And yeah, for the past 3 years, I've been trying to build my personal brand. Highly recommend anybody who hasn't even started a business, start building your personal brand. What topics do you want to talk about? Kind of setting yourself up for you where you can end up charging hourly for your expertise on things, or start hosting workshops or whatever, putting on some, digital. I know everybody has like a digital course or whatever, but like it is very important to start standing for something in this world today. And so I think that's really the key to your personal brand. And I will say too, highly recommend, like, for the mindset side of things, when you're saying like building a personal brand and knowing what you stand for, and being able to have the confidence to walk into places and charge what you want to charge, all those things, that's a whole nother side of things, money mindset. But I actually go talk to a therapist. I go to therapy, and I call her my mindset coach because I try to optimize how I think about things. And a lot of entrepreneurs, I think veteran entrepreneurs too, we have sometimes lower self-esteem because we're new to this space. We haven't been doing this our entire life. So it's that new mentality of like, do I know what I'm talking about? And so it's just been really awesome to chat with her. And she's actually through the VA, which is awesome. So free and all of that.
Yep.
So just to talk more about like how to be more honest with yourself, how to commit to yourself, how to find, opportunities to be open-minded and to expand, but also be very intentional with like what you stand for. And
Yep.
once you have that core, then you can build your personal brand. Comes pretty easy. You're like, this is what I stand for. This is what I want to put out into the world. And so it kind of everything goes into the ecosystem. Then it starts from the core. So
Yeah. How do
yeah.
you, before we get to the delegation question, which I promise we will get there, and on the personal brand side of things, like how do you, because it is a grind, right? And you are hustling, we all are, like I understand that, but I do think that the way that gets talked about can be like very, not can be like, it is very toxic because not everybody is going to wake up at 4 a.m. like Jocko. Not everybody is going to run 100 miles a day like Goggins, right? Not everybody's going to have that special operator, like grind, hustle, grind, knock all the doors down and just boom, 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 right? Like
Yeah.
you have to live a fully integrated life, right? You're a human being who you have a fiance. I have a wife and a child. Like, we have a life to live. If we're not enjoying the entire life, then that's not successful in my view. Work
Yeah.
does take up the vast majority of our lives. And that just makes sense, right? That's just the way that human culture has evolved. But how do you stay away from that like toxic grind mentality and look at more of like the kind of like, this is my word, not yours, but it seems like more of a joyful grind.
Yeah. You have to I I just learned this also at this PenFed veteran entrepreneur program. They're awesome. We talked about time blocking and what making sure your calendar specifically reflects your values. And maybe you do this too, Carrie, but like putting in time of like, this is my workout time and that's just a non-negotiable. This is my nightly walk with my fiance and we're going to walk and talk and that's what we're doing. And so you do kind of have to become the CEO of your own life and you do have to put it in your calendar. Like you said, life and work, it is, it is something you need to learn how to integrate. And so if I'm traveling to a conference, it's like, babe, let's go together. Let's do this together. If we can't do this together, that's okay. When we come back, we're going to set aside time. Um, you know, you, I, I definitely think that I believe in working very hard. I've always worked very hard in my entire life. My mom, my parents always instilled like, we're going to stay up late, we're going to knock stuff out. And so um, I think a lot of that does come from, it comes naturally to me just because of how I was raised. But, you know, now the older I get, I'm turning 30 this year, whoop, whoop, it's like, whoop, I really am shifting into this new stage in my life where I'm like, okay, just being more intentional with my time, but also really working hard on when I really and being present when I need to be present with my work. So
I
I don't
love
know.
that. I'm definitely going to steal that. Your calendar should reflect your values. That's absolutely awesome. So I guess like it's a good segue, that integration into delegating, right? So you've built a team, hired a team, you're working together, and you said a couple of them are veterans, one isn't, but has experience in the space. So what does that delegation look like? What does the business look like, and how difficult has it been for you to let go of day-to-day stuff in all of those pillars within your organization? And how
Mhm.
are you delegating, and how are you either enjoying it or struggling with it?
Yeah, I delegate a lot of the like I'm a big vision thinker. I think we've maybe even talked about this too. Just like I'm definitely a big picture, vision, creative. I love social media, content creation, storytelling, traveling, meeting people, like really being kind of the tip of the spear with everything. And so I'm the person who will like throw the ideas at the wall, and then my COO will be the one to like make it into a solid plan, or be like, this is how many times we're going to meet weekly to make sure that we all stay on the same page. I'm going to put it in the calendar. I'm going to make sure that this is all on the Trello board, our project management app, and she's going to kind of really distill everything. And then I have my CMO who's going to kind of always be throwing ideas at me with when it comes to marketing or helping us run the ad side of things. I'm not great with tech. I'm really not great with tech. So that was easy to kind of give up. I'm like, y'all know what you're doing. Great. Same with like the project management stuff. I necessarily never worked in Trello. So she has, and she was amazing. So, I really just, all the things that I wasn't good at. My CFO, right? Like he's helping with the books and the budgeting and all that stuff. So I'm just really allowing people who that's their strength and their power to really lean into that. And I think being an officer, being an LT, like say what you want to say about LTs, but it's like we are trained to listen to our NCOs and to really like lean on them. And so I look at them as like my NCOs and I'm like, all right, guys, I'm trying to be very present, trying to understand the basics of it, but also like they know what they're doing, and so I trust them, and I just really try to praise them and honor them, and give them all the things that they need so that we can continue moving forward. But then I can focus over here on like meeting the people and trying to get more people eyes on the brand and people to fall in love with us more. So. And they know that's my strength too, which is great. I just communicate with that. I'm like, this is what I'm good at, guys. And then they're like, okay, this is what I'm good at. So that's kind of how we work.
Yeah, I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Junior officers, I think, who separate rather than senior officers who retire probably have a little bit easier of a job doing what you just described, right? Like trusting your NCOs in this instance, because you're much more closer removed to that experience. Whereas I think a lot of senior NCOs and senior officers will retire after not being that close to the boots that are on the ground to actually empower them to do the things that they need to do so that you're empowered to do the things that you need to do.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I just met a general who got out and is working kind of in like the VC world and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it and maybe down the line when I'm running a multi-million-dollar business, I wish that I had been a general. You know what I mean? It's like there's so many phases and stages. And something I'd learned also is like every time you 2x your business, so every time your sales go from 400,000 to 800,000 in revenue, like your business completely changes. And so I might get to a point where I'm like, damn, like I really need a different mindset around me. And so it's always an evolution and learning, and like you just constantly have to surround yourself with people who are like just a step ahead of you. Have you ever heard of DC Shoes, Carrie? The people who
Oh,
used to make yeah. Okay, cool.
I'm a California kid. I grew up in San Diego. Surf, skate, snow. So yeah, I
Boom.
know. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, awesome. So former CEO of DC Shoes, Nick Adcock, found him on Intro app, and he's becoming a mentor, maybe potentially board member of Torch. And so it's like throwing that out there and manifesting. Nick, if you hear this, I'm manifesting. But it's just like surround yourself with people like that, where you're like, how the heck did you get into that space? And so how did you lead people at that level? So there's just, and what he did tell me is CEOs at all levels, we're all juggling a million things at once. We're all trying to be the smiley face when everything's going to shit. And we're always just trying to keep people uplifted. And if you can do that, if you can walk into a room in a meeting and keep people uplifted, your team will kind of keep moving forward. So that was really great advice that he gave me. So
Yeah, I love that. People often forget that when you get to the CEO role, while you are ultimately responsible for all of the decisions that get made, your primary responsibility is to lead your organization, right? It is to establish the values that drive the behavior, that drive the results of your organization. And it's really easy for CEOs to get caught in that kind of middle section of making every decision, micromanaging all the decisions that get made, reviewing every single little thing that goes out. But to your point, if you empower a team that empower you, you're able to look at things quickly and efficiently and lead them to make the decisions that they need to make to drive success.
exactly. And you hit it right there too, Carrie. It's decision making and the time it takes to make a decision. Like if you can cut that in half, or even just like really small amount of time where you can be like, okay, we need to make this decision instead of waiting 2 weeks, we can do it in 2 days. Like that's going to continue moving your business forward too. Just being very decisive, I think, is important.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, to wrap things up, I'd love to talk about the book, Carry Your Torch, right?
It's Light the Torch, Carrie. Hey, that'd be a good one. And maybe you can write that book, Carrie. Carry the torch.
Yeah.
Yes. So this will be a 3-part series. It's the first of the series. It's all about how I built my business from zero to Shark Tank. So how did I get a deal on Shark Tank? How did I build the business? How did I find my business coach? How did I link into the SBDC? Just the story behind it as well. And so it's kind of my story woven in through it as well. But then the second book will be all about how I went from Shark Tank to my first million. And then my last book will be from a million to selling it. So that's kind of the vision so everyone look out for the series. And this first one is here just to kind of help new entrepreneurs, beginners, just understand what it's like to build a business in this new modern world, and specifically in a niche market.
What was the writing process like for you to integrate your kind of memoir life story with the business practices that you're encouraging folks to engage in?
Yeah, so it was pretty I went on ChatGPT and I asked it, kind of what to give me a framework. How can I develop this book to make, give me some chapter outlines, just kind of give me, so it gives it a nice seamless flow. And then what I did with each chapter, I would talk into my phone. Google Docs actually allows you to just talk, and then it writes it for you. So I just would write into it, and whatever came to my mind, I would just puke and puke and puke and puke for that chapter, and then I'd move on to the next chapter. Then I sent it to my publishing company, and the first draft was horrible, and they were just like, "This is so bad. It sounds like you just puked all over the page." I'm like, "I did," and so then we just distilled. I think we had like four. I had to rewrite it had to rewrite it 4 times, and then finally that's kind of it took me about a year to make it. So, but the first draft is always going to be crappy, so everyone can just think that, and the last one will be definitely something where you're proud of that. So yeah.
Did you enjoy the writing process? Was writing something that you had done before?
I've never done it before. I'm a huge reader. I love to read, and I think I'm going to continue writing. It's very it's cool. I realize how much crap is in my brain. I'm like, wow, I could write a couple books about couple different things. So that's fun. And then also when you read, you get a different appreciation for writers and your books. And so it's just like this beautiful circle. And you're like, wow, I like the way he like structured this book. I think I'd want to do something like this in my next book. Or, there's just like all these different things, appreciation that you get from writing. And I journal every day. I try to journal. So that's like the brain health and just the personal side of things, but also the business side of things.
Yeah, I love that. One of my particular interests is in the cadence between creating and consuming, right? And making sure that you're consuming for a purpose. And again, I love to read as well. So I like to read for enjoyment, and I do read for enjoyment, but I also find myself learning as I'm reading, not just about the subject matter, but also about that craft component to it, and like different ways that I can integrate that into the things that I'm writing, whether it's a screenplay or memoir or an article or whatever.
Exactly. I love that, Carrie. I love that the balance between creating and consuming. It is a real thing that I'm still learning too. So
yeah, it's an ongoing process for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I mean, before I get to the open-ended question that ends each episode, where can folks find you and the business and the book? Where do you want to drive traffic? What can we tag and collaborate with?
Yep. So just go to my Instagram at @Iam_Haley Marie, HALEYMARIE, and all of my info, torch, my book will be all in my bio.
Love it. All right. I can't remember if we did this last time you were on, but it has been like over a year. So Haley, to end each episode of the podcast, I ask an open-ended question. What's on your heart and what's on your mind for our community right now? Could be a piece of advice, something you want to get off your chest, or something you want to reiterate from what we've talked about today. But Haley, what's on your heart? What's on your mind?
Oh, I love this. What's on my heart is for people out there who are developing something so special, especially veteran entrepreneurs. Don't isolate yourself, and always believe that there's going to be, even if something happens that's negative or you lose somebody, a partner, or something happens, a deal falls through, there's always something positive on the other side. So just keep moving forward. There's always going to be something better or, more positive when you keep moving forward.
I love it. I love it. Haley, I appreciate you. I appreciate your work, appreciate your energy, appreciate your friendship, and glad we got to do this again, and looking forward to doing it again as you keep scaling and hitting those milestones that you're going for.
Carrie, thank you. You're the best. Yes, we'll talk soon. Hopefully we can see each other in person soon too.
Yes, definitely. I know we've missed each other a couple times at different opportunities for travel. So we'll make that happen soon.
Definitely. Awesome.
All right. We'll see you.
Bye.